Hey everyone, welcome to week 4. We are trucking along in chapter 17 this week. We are continuing our study on birds, and today we're going to specifically be talking about anatomy and physiology of birds and how they differ from our own anatomy and physiology and different from other mammals as well. There are some pretty distinct features that make them very creatively designed by God, and we're going to cover those today. But before we get into that, I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what's due this week. You will have a chapter 17 vocab quiz I'm going to send home with you. I will also email a copy of that to your parents. You may not use any notes for that, and you need to complete that and turn that in by Friday. You also will be taking notes through this lecture, and you need to complete the section review. So you're going to be doing numbers 1 through 8 on page 355. I've also attached a fun little bird watching thing for you to do. I know that you are all anxious to get outside, and if you want to earn an extra quiz grade, this would be easy for you to do. I've attached it, and you will not be doing the aquatic ecosystem part, just the terrestrial, which means land. And you will identify 3 to 5 birds that's just in around your neighborhood. I've done one example for you to tell you what it looks like, and then you will answer questions 2 and 3 on page 2 and complete the chart on page 1. This is optional extra credit for you, so you do not have to do it, but it could be beneficial for you. Just also a few things, guys. Please make sure you're putting your name on all of the papers you're turning back in. We get all of your papers at one time, and we have to go through all of them. So if you do not have a name or a date or a teacher or a heading, we don't know who it goes to. So please just make sure that you're putting your name, my name, date, all of that on your papers, okay? It makes it easier for you to get your grades quicker if we know who it goes to. So we miss you guys. We are thinking about you. And let's go ahead and get into our lecture today. So we are in 17.1. Go ahead and start our slideshow here. 1 second. Here we go. So, all right, now that we got that carried away, we are going to be in the anatomy of birds. So, like we've talked about, God designs everything very excellently. He does not make any mistakes. He gives us 2 kidneys in case one fails. He gives us 2 lungs to breathe properly. We have all our amazing senses. And even when he comes down to the smallest parts of creation, like an example, like a bird, we have the design so uniquely made. Their heads are directly proportional where they won't flop over on their little legs. They have specific feathers that allows them to fly and cope with where they're going to be moving to. And so today, as we cover that, I want you guys to be doing a compare and contrast in your head of what's the same and what's different. So feathers. Feathers are designed for flight and an excellent insulator for their bodies. There are several different types of feathers. The first is contour feathers. If you're following along with us in your book, we're on page 345. There are several different types. They are contour feathers that point towards the bird's tail and aid in streamlining, which is their flight. Flight feathers provide wing shape for flight, making sure that the air is catching it correctly. Down feathers provide insulation without a lot of weight. So you can see that the different feathers in page 345 and where they are actually on the wing of the bird. So you can see that we have secondary flight feathers and we have primary flight feathers. Secondary is more inward towards the muscle, and primary is one that's catching the wind later. Skeletal system. Birds carry avian bones and are hollow and filled with air instead of marrow. So we know that we have red blood marrow and then yellow blood marrow, and this is where we get our blood production in our bones. They are not the same as birds. The bones help at the mounting point called the keel and help for powerful flight. So you can see all of these different parts. The internal structure of the bone is on page 349, and you can see that it has a hollow. Birds' bills are made of keratin that are lightweight yet tough. So they're lightweight, but they're tough so that they can, if they're a perching bird or they're a bird of prey, they can attack their prey what they need. They can pick up what they're wanting to eat. Birds hold the ulula which is a retractable group of feathers that serves as the hand part of the wing, which is very interesting because we would never think that birds have hands. We have fingers, but they have a eula. All right. Muscular system. The muscular system. The most important flight muscles of birds are the pectoralis major muscles, which are the power stroke of the birds. If you think about us, our most important muscles for us to lift things and pull things would be our pectoralis. Theirs is to fly. That's what they use their pectoralis for. Pectoralis minor muscles connect to the sternum to the top of the wings as a rope and pulley system. So as one pulls out, one is going to be pulling in. That's exactly how our muscles work. We have a expand and contraction that has to happen one way or the other, and we have ligaments that join them together as the rope for the pulley system. Theirs is exactly the same as ours, except where they are proportionally on the bird. The nervous system. The brain holds three sections: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. The cerebrum is the intelligent center controlling voluntary behavior and day-to-day decisions. Okay, so that's basically telling it what it's going to eat, where it's going to fly, what it needs to survive. The cerebellum is responsible for muscle coordination, so that's going to be more non-voluntary. The brainstem, similar to man, controls the bird's autonomic functions such as breathing, blood pressure, etc. And the optic lobes of a bird are midbrain and take up a major portion which man contribute to birds' amazing eyesight. So if you look at the bird's eye, okay, and how spherical they are and almost immovable, but their eye can move almost like it's going around their head because they're so big. You can seriously look at this on page 351. They have the nictating membrane, which is a third eyelid that helps the bird to blink. Okay, so they have more than 1.5 million cells, which in their eyes, which we only have 0.2, which is probably why they can see their prey for long distances. Senses. Sense of hearing is exceptional among birds. Their anatomy is similar to man's, except it does not possess an external ear. That should say ear. Sorry guys, you know my typos. The bird far surpasses the human in the ability to distinguish differences in intensity and response to rapid fluctuation pitch. So let's talk about the sense of hearing for a minute. So the sense of hearing on something like the owl, their sense of hearing is so intense that some owls can actually hear critters underground. Instead of seeing them, they can hear them and know where they need to drop to try to grab something. Birds also have remarkable eyesight. Birds have a third eyelid called the nictating membrane, which allow the birds to blink and keep moist while not obstruction vision. So we just have our tear ducts. They have a nictating membrane for that. Birds can also focus on small objects through the depression of the retina called the fovea. They have a color vision that gives them near ultraviolet spectrum colors. I'm going through it pretty quickly, guys, but you'll be reading about it as well. Birds have a high metabolism because they require a great deal of fuel. Birds eat a variety of foods by probing soil, searching leaves and tree barks. Depending on the bird, they can either be carnivores or herbivores. Birds have specialized bills to match their dieting habits. For example, sparrows have seed-eating bills, while hummingbirds have long, slender, sucking bills. Birds rapidly digest whatever they eat. Some can eat their food within 2 hours, others within an hour or half an hour. So their metabolism is high because of the amount of work that they do. Think about how much work they have to do to get from place to place, and think about the amount of energy that they use when they fly or when they're building a nest. They have a high metabolism because they have so much energy that they have to use throughout the day. Birds' digestion starts through the mouth, then down the pharynx, but is released to a storage sac called the crop. This crop releases food to the rest of the digestive system at the right time. So we have sphincters that go between our large intestine and so forth that open up and gives us the nutrients when we need. The stomach, and that's what the crop does. The stomach has two chambers. The forward part produces and releases gastric juices, while the other part of the gizzard grinds the food. So one is doing the mechanical digestion and the other is doing the chemical digestion. The intestine is where nutrients are absorbed, and the colchia is where the waste is readied for elimination. The bursa, or of Fabricius, is the site where lymphocytes are formed to protect immunity. So all of that is happening in the intestine. We have our lymph nodes, but they don't. They have it all happening in their digestive system. Excretory system. Birds display a unique ability to concentrate the urine collected by the kidney. Because uric acid is not very soluble in water and birds need to conserve water, uric acid is 3 times more concentrated than normal mammals. Okay, so what does that exactly mean? It means that they can conserve their water more than we can, okay? Birds have a salt gland located above the eye. The salt gland eliminates excess salt from the high sodium in the water they come in contact with. Because their kidneys can't handle the salt gland excretes it instead. So think about those birds who are diving deep to get fish out of the water. They have that small little salt gland that is helping reduce the sodium so that their digestive system can function fully. I would never think to put a salt gland filter on the top of my eye. Respiration. The respiratory system of birds is different than any other vertebrae. They have an open respiratory system. They do not breathe air into their lungs, but directly into large air sacs. Air flows in one direction from posterior air sacs through the lungs to the anterior sacs of the lungs. So it's a continually air opening supplies, open respiratory system. Ours is not open. It goes down our throat to our alveoli, which are opening and closing, those little tiny air sacs. Theirs continues to move through the posterior and anterior in sacs. Air is continually passing through a bird, which means they need constant supply of air. The system allows twice as more than any other animal, which makes sense because of how high they fly and how fast they're flying. You would need lots of air to pass through that. Birds also have a voice box or syrinx. The syrinx vibrates within the trachea, which causes different volume and pitches, which is why some birds have beautiful sounds. Circulation. Birds have a 4-chambered heart that separates pulmonary and systemic circulation just like mammals. The bird's heart is larger and has 2 jugular veins across the neck that ensures blood is running properly through the head. We have lots of different veins, but we have one and they have 2. Birds' heartbeat is proportional to their body size. They have a high metabolism, which means a higher heart rate because they're burning more energy fast. The blood in the bird is similar to the mammalian blood cells, and that includes red cells, but theirs are a tad bigger. Their white blood cells work rapidly to repair of wounds or prevention of disease because of the bird's active lifestyle. So just a reminder this week, guys, if you have any questions, you are free to text me or email me and let me know what you need. We will have a Zoom meeting on Wednesday, and I hope to see you guys then. Talk to you later.